When we talk about money, most people think about what it can buy. But in reality, your wealth doesn't just determine what you own, it determines your entire lifestyle. Extreme poverty is like facing the school bully on your very first day, without any friends, skills, or backup. That's what extreme poverty feels like, living on less than $2.15 per day, less than what you'd spend on your favorite Starbucks drink. You can't even stretch the last dollar in your pocket to buy a decent meal. Being under the extreme poverty line doesn't just mean having little money, it means no access to food, clean water, shelter, or healthcare. These are basically the luxuries many of us take for granted. Think about your average day. You wake up, eat breakfast, turn on the tap for clean water, and maybe even grab your phone to check the news. Every now and then, you open YouTube and watch random videos or educational ones like this. If you're living in extreme poverty, each of these things would be a struggle, or you might not have access to them at all. The food you can afford might be minimal, lacking the nutrition needed to stay healthy. You're practically immune to water-based diseases with all the dirty water you drink, but if you do get sick, healthcare isn't even in your vocabulary because you can't afford a visit to the doctor. You're basically in survival mode the entire time, making extreme poverty an uphill race against time, like being stuck at the bottom of a well with no ladder. Poverty is like trying to win a game of Monopoly when you start with no money and no properties, and every time you pass go, you get a bill instead of $200. Insufficient resources mean struggling to meet basic needs like food, housing, healthcare, and education. Imagine a day when you must choose between paying for dinner or keeping the lights on. In practical terms, poverty means living on an income below a certain threshold, but that threshold varies depending on where you live. You may be poor living on $35 a day in America, but you'd be relatively well off with that money in most African countries. Being poor is a daily struggle to put food on the table or pay bills. It isn't just about dollars in the bank, it also affects your quality of life and can trap you in a cycle because you don't have access to things that could help you escape poverty, like higher education or better resources. There's also the idea of relative poverty. You might have enough money to survive, but still can't participate in social activities because your income is relatively low. Imagine going to school, eating well, and paying your bills, but while all your friends are streaming on their new iPhones, you're struggling to get online with a BlackBerry. Basically, being poor limits your opportunities, choices, and freedom, even if you're technically surviving. Right now, around 700 million people, about 8.5% of the world, survive on less than $2 a day. Most are in sub-Saharan Africa. Even if they manage to survive, access to food, education, and opportunities is nearly impossible. Poverty doesn't just limit money, it limits life. The lower middle class is comfortably above the poverty line, but not quite capable of putting a pool in the backyard anytime soon. If you're in this class, you live in a decent neighborhood, maybe in a modest home or apartment. Your car might be a reliable Toyota, but not a Tesla. You have a stable job, maybe in administration, teaching, or trades, bringing in enough to cover basics like food, housing, and utilities. You're not in a situation where you can splurge on shopping sprees every payday, but you tend to live a balanced lifestyle. You can save for college and unexpected emergencies, but overspending, like buying a new iPhone yearly, can throw a wrench into your budgeting plans. In gaming terms, the lower middle class are experts at min-maxing, making the most optimal choices with what they have. If you play your cards right, you might have some wiggle room for that fancy steak dinner you've always wanted. The middle class would rate around 5 out of 10 on a scale. They're the Goldilocks of social classes. Not too rich, not too poor. Middle class varies depending on location, economy, and personal perceptions. It's often tied to income, but not just about numbers. Typically, you earn enough to cover basics like housing, healthcare, and education, with a little left over for comforts like vacations, dining out, or upgrading your smartphone occasionally. Middle-class jobs are usually stable, like teaching, nursing, or office work, unlike lower-income jobs that might be physically demanding or less secure. You don't have financial freedom to retire early or take unnecessary risks, but you're not stressed over every bill either. In the US, lower middle class families typically earn roughly $72,000 to $108,000 per year. The upper middle class means you're not in the cramped economy section of an airplane, but you can't afford first-class luxury either. You have enough room to stretch your legs, a stable and well-paying job, and a comfortable lifestyle. You might be a senior manager, specialized professional, or successful business owner. You live in a nice neighborhood, send your kids to good schools, take vacations, and enjoy some luxuries. You're scratching the surface of being rich without going overboard, like drinking the finest wine while still keeping an eye on grocery store sales. Affluent individuals live comfortably while enjoying finer things, but aren't rolling in dough. They meet their needs and luxuries, have financial security, and possess a good grasp of financial management. They can invest in art, high-end tech, or a second property without worrying about money. Education and healthcare are accessible, and they sleep well without worrying about losing their job or inflation. Upper affluent means you have a solid foundation to enjoy perks without constantly checking prices. You can afford upscale vacations, high-end cars, and maybe multiple properties. You might even have a financial advisor to help manage your wealth. Socially, you're in circles with other high earners, discussing investments, luxury brands, and philanthropy, a sweet spot between stability and indulgence. Being a millionaire means hitting a net worth of $1 million. All assets minus liabilities equal 7 figures. You can live comfortably, splurge on vacations or gadgets, and have wealth invested to grow even further. You can afford higher education for your kids, retire early, or start a business. Your financial cushion allows for a comfortable lifestyle without stressing over everyday costs, though living in expensive cities might limit how far that million stretches. As of 2024, approximately 58 million people worldwide are millionaires, representing about 1.5% of the global adult population. In the United States, there are over 24 million millionaires, accounting for nearly 41% of the global total. This means roughly 1 in 10 American adults has a net worth of at least $1 million. Multi-millionaires are net worth multiples higher than a typical millionaire, often in the 8 or 9-figure range. They enjoy luxury homes, high-performance cars, multiple properties, and investments in real estate, stocks, and art. Decisions are based on passion, not necessity, and assets may exceed cash on hand. A multimillionaire may have little in a wallet but still be incredibly wealthy. Here we reach the top of the pyramid. Billionaires play in a league of their own and represent only 0.0001% of the world's population. In their game, wealth is measured in zeros. If a millionaire's fortune is a sleek sports car, a billionaire's is the entire racetrack. Think of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Bernard Arnault, people whose fortunes could buy cities, fund space programs, or reshape entire industries. If you spent $1,000 every single day, it would take almost 3,000 years to run through $1 billion. That's why billionaires don't just buy luxury, they buy power, private islands, fleets of yachts, even influence over global markets. Musk is building rockets to Mars, Bezos has his own space company, and Arnault's empire dictates what luxury looks like across the world. Sure, managing that level of wealth comes with pressure, but let's be honest, it's a different kind of problem than punching a clock in a 9-to-5. So, what level of wealth are you at? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn more about building wealth, I recommend the book The Richest Man in Babylon, a timeless guide to achieving financial prosperity. The link is in the video description and the pinned comment. Remember, wealth doesn't just change your bank account, it changes your life.